Tubers, tubettes, and of course my colorful collection of crazy people. This video is going to be titled something to the effect of how to succeed in retirement. We've done a lot of talking recently on my channel and others about some guys facing some doom and gloom. And while that happens, people do fail or come close to failure, either physically, mentally, or emotionally, financially, here in their retirement years. And that needs to be talked about. I think it's important to fire those warning shots across your bow when you're considering a big move, say from, I'm going to say North America, where I'm from, to here in the Philippines or anywhere else in Asia or anywhere else in the world for that matter. Because it can happen, and forewarned is forearmed. But I thought it was time to maybe change horses and do a new direction. As opposed to talking about guys that are failing, let's talk about guys that are succeeding. I'm not going to beat my own drum here, but I am going to use myself as the example because I think that's the only fair way to do it. People that give negative comments on my channel and others often refer to us, men of a certain age, as losers. They say, you know what, they were losers in their home country. They couldn't make it. They didn't, they're broke, they're this, they're that. And so they come over to the Philippines, which is a poor country, and that way they can live on their meager Social Security and, chase women that are younger than them. Something to that effect. So I got to thinking, what exactly is a loser? And what exactly makes somebody successful? What's the difference? What is a loser? Well, I looked it up in the good old dictionary. And loosely translated, it says it's someone who has never ever succeeded and never has a chance to succeed. That's a loser. Well, if I look at myself, as I promised I would do, I wasn't a loser by that definition when I lived in America. In fact, I was, according to America's standards at the time, I was fairly successful. I had a good job. I made good money, better than average, when I was working. And I had the house. I had the 2 cars in the garage. We had the nice things. We had all the stuff. That was sort of the commercialized, pre-programmed definition of success. But was I happy? Or did I feel successful? Yeah, when I came home and I had a check and it was a big one and I put it in the bank, I felt successful for about 10 or 15 minutes. Because then I started writing checks for all those nice houses and cars and kids and other things. And I realized that, oh boy, I'm going to have to go out next month and do it all over again just to keep up because there's nothing left. So, was I successful? I don't really think so. Was I a loser? No, because I got up and I tried hard every day. And then when retirement time came and I reached a certain age, it was time for me to pull the plug on all that. And no longer was a house important, no longer were the cars important. There was this big shift as far as my mentality as to what it would take to make me happy and what would make me successful. And prior to coming out here, I sat down and I did the math and I said, okay, I'm getting this much money on my Social Security and it's going to cost me this much to live according to the YouTube videos that I was watching at the time, and I should be able to save X amount of dollars. And I'm going to get into that in detail and tell you the real number. But getting back to the emotional and personal character development, what I have discovered after 6 years of living here, next month marks my 6th year of living here in the Philippines, is that not only have I been able to release a lot of old stuff and ghosts and skeletons and and exercise those demons that I carried with me for so long. But I was able to actually discover the real me. I have finally found out who I am. The guy that you're listening to right now, if you've lasted this long, is not the same guy that came over here 6 years ago. And I haven't reinvented myself at all. That's not what I've tried to do. I have simply discovered myself. When I was in America, I was being pushed down by the wife. I was being pushed down by the boss. I was being pushed down by the bills and the obligation and the kids and the deadlines and just life in general, and found that my own personality, my own sense of humor was being suppressed and repressed and squashed and pushed and held down to where I almost didn't know who I was anymore. I was just like this machine that was supposed to get up every day, go, earn, come back, pay, rinse, repeat, and do it all over again. I didn't have a bunch of laughs. I didn't have a bunch of friends. I didn't have a bunch of good times. A good time for me was going to a movie and enjoying it. And that was about the beginning and the end of it. A peaceful day on the couch without the kids screaming was an enjoyable day for me. Now, 6 years later, I have discovered that I do have a sense of humor, that I do have a bit of a personality. I do get along with people. I have made a lot of friends. I've made some enemies too. I'm by no far any stretch of the imagination am I perfect. Far, far from it. I am deeply flawed. However, I embrace those flaws, and now I can take the time to recognize them, admit to them, and try to change them. I'm usually not successful at it, but a little every day I chip away at it. And so therefore, there's been an emotional and a spiritual and just a self-realization development that has occurred by osmosis through time here in the Philippines. I've been allowed to be me. I don't have to be the employee. I don't have to be the husband. I don't have to be at the parent-teacher conference. I don't have to show up at the meeting. I can do whatever the hell I want. And if I feel like sleeping in, I sleep in. If I feel like going out, I go out. If I feel like reading a book or self-reflecting, I do. And it has caused this great emotional release inside of me of joy and of happiness. Is every day golden? Hell no. There's always trials and tribulations and problems and incidents, but they're minuscule compared to what I experienced back home. My days are no longer mundane. My days are simply my own. And what happens to them and what that day is used for is totally at my discretion. And if I have a good day, that's because I made it a good day. If I had a bad day, it's probably because I made it a bad day. That's where I have come to realize. There's an old saying, I love old sayings, and the old saying is, if you believe you can do it, you're right. And if you believe you can't do it, you're right. So when I came over here, I realized and I discovered I can do it. And every day I wake up and I feel potential. I shouldn't say every day. Most days I feel nothing but potential for self-improvement, self-happiness, gratification, gratitude, and opportunity. Now let's get into the financial picture. I mentioned that I was working and dollars and cents for excess of 9-10 years, cracked 6 figures, right in a row. But like I said before, it went out, boom, 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 as quick as it went in. And added to that was the stress that if I had a bad month, whew, what are we going to do? Just today, before I did this video, I was watching TV, and it showed that all these people in America are having their cars repoed, and that their average car payment, I couldn't believe this, and I was in the car business, the average car payment today is in excess of $700 a month. Inflation is eating away at good, hardworking, ordinary, middle-class people, and it's brutalizing them. So I want to talk about the monetary benefits of retiring on a small pension, or in my case, Social Security. My net check, as of today, after they take out for my, Part B, is $2,121, $21.21. I live on $1,600 or less on average per month. And I've been doing that, even though the math has been smaller before because I've gotten raises to my Social Security. I've always kept an average of $100 to $200 to $1,000 a month that I've been able to set aside and save once I got past the first 6 months of living here, where I really went off the reservation for a while financially. And I had X amount of dollars in my emergency fund. Well, I'm thinking about the people in America with the $700 car payments and the high rent and the high cost of food. And I'm thinking about and maybe they're making 80, 90, 100, 110, $150,000 a month, and it's just not enough. And here's little old me, and I'm making $21.21. But I'm only spending 15, 16, 17, 18. It varies, okay? I'll do a budget video here one of these days. But for the sake of this conversation, I'm going to say that I did the math earlier, and I saved approximately $400 per month from just my Social Security. I live under that $21.21 by $400. And I've been out here 6 years. Now let's do some math. If we take $400 and multiply it by 12, which is 1 year, that's $4,800. So I'm going to cheat, and I'm going to round it up to $5,000 just so it makes sense and simple for me, because I'm not that bright. But if we take that $5,000 and we multiply it by 6, that's $30,000 that is now in the bank. I can't remember having that much money in the bank when I was making over 100 in America. When I first got here, I bought a scooter, my gay-ass looking little red scooter, the Kimco. And I drove that puppy for 5 years. And finally, it pooped out. I kept repairing it, even though I had the funds saved to buy a different vehicle or a different scooter. I said, no, I'm just going to fix, because it was so cheap to fix. And then it got to the point to where the problems were still cheap to fix, but they were happening too often. Too often I went out to go somewhere and it wouldn't start, or it would get going and something would fly off the handle. So what did I do? I gave it away. I gave it to May's family because they can fix it in 2 seconds. They love it, they adore it, they use it, and I'm blessed to have given it to them, and they were blessed by receiving it. And did I buy myself a new fancy scooter? Nope. I bought May a scooter for Christmas. I spent $1,600 on a Honda Beat 110, and I gave it to May. And I said, here you go, this is the scooter. And we're going to use this, and you're going to learn how to drive it if you so desire. But it's yours. It's in your name. We went down together, her and I. She signed the paperwork. I'm nowhere on the title or registration of her bike. I said, it's yours, baby. It's a gift. I'm giving it to you. We weren't married at the time, and that was over a year ago. And so we drove that little scooter for 6 or 7 months. And then May finally learned how to drive it after many trials and tribulations, and now she's racing up and down the hill. And I said, well, okay, it's time for me to get my own transportation. So I bought a Honda ADV 150 for $3,000 and paid cash for it. And been driving that. May's been driving hers. Transportation's handled. It then came to a point where I felt, as time went on, that the scooters were great. They were fun. I still drive them. I still drive mine. May still drives her. But we're trying to limit that due to safety issues. We've seen too many people get hurt. We've had too many close calls. So it was time. I saved up money. Like, we remember the $30,000? I paid $11,000, round numbers, I'm rounding up actually a little, for a brand new Toyota Wigo. So now we have a paid for Honda, little Honda Beat. We have a paid for ADV, and we have a paid for brand new 2023 to a little Toyota Wigo. And none of those were wants. That's what I want to emphasize. They were needs. And we needed a car because for our own safety, two wheels, not good for 24/7. Not good for when it rains 40 days in a row like it did in January. I got that car December 28th. I remember it because it's my son's birthday, my oldest son's birthday. And the entire month of January and damn near half of February, it rained every day, hard. And we were just like, wow, what timing. So we were able to get out and about every day in January and February. That was also the month that we were planning our wedding. So talk about timing. So there you go. If you are sitting at home, your life is not challenging you anymore. You're bored. You have a routine. You're ready to stop being busy with helping other people make money. It's time for you. It can be done, and it can be done to where you can let go. You can perhaps, like me, find yourself. You may have lost yourself in the shuffle. I have been meeting guys left and right, and when I meet them, they're in the first few days or the first few weeks, they're just like I was. They're like deer in the headlights. They're a little confused. They're a little off balance. They're digging it, but they're still not sure. And then I chat with them 3 weeks later, a month later, 2 months later, they've made friends. There's a group of guys that are, planning on tomorrow because it's a brownout, what resort they're going to go to and where they're going to hang out, and they're chucking and jiving. They have more friends today in 3 months of living here than they did in a lifetime of living in wherever country they came from, primarily America. So financially, you can improve your lifestyle by simply adopting or adapting to the culture that you're moving to. It's going to be less expensive. There's inflation here, but nothing like what you're experiencing back in Europe and in America. If you show some discipline, you'll be able to take your check, whatever it might be, and you may not be able to save $400, but you might be able to save $100 or $200 or $150. Another little factoid that I heard today is that 60% of Americans, again I'm going to use America, North America for you purists, don't have $1,000 saved for an emergency. They don't have that. If they have a flat tire, if they've got to miss 2 days of work, if they've got a medical procedure that they've got to pay for or an expensive drug, they're hosed. And I'm not saying that all your problems are going to be solved out here, but I will say that they will be minimized at worst. I think it's an opportunity. People talk about us being losers because we're old and we're we're on a limited income, and we have to come to a third world country in order to make it. Well, let me tell you what I think a loser is. I think a loser is someone that stays at home and continues to take the beating and does nothing to change it. I think someone who's successful, someone who's a winner, someone who's brave, has the ability to say, you know what, I've had enough of taking enough. I'm not taking your beating anymore. I'm not going to put up with it. I'm not going to stand for it. I'm going to make a change. And you know what? I might fail, but at least I tried. This afternoon, SpaceX blasted off a rocket, lasted 4 minutes, and it blew up. And they're calling it a success. Not a total success, but a success. Because they're just happy it got off the launch pad. They didn't know if it would make it for 4 minutes. They didn't know it was going to make it for 4 seconds. So when it went up and it didn't do what it was supposed to do and it exploded, they're like, cool. Now we've got all this data, we've got all this information, and we can find out what went wrong, and we'll go out next time and we'll build it bigger and we'll build it better, and we'll fix the things that went wrong and try to improve the things that went right, and we'll get that off the pad next time, or we'll get that all the way up off the pad. What I'm saying in this video is, if you want to win, if you want to improve, and if you want to succeed, you must get yourself off the launch pad. I'll leave you with this. Our old friend Confucius, he's got a saying, and the saying is that all men are born with 2 lives. The second life begins when he realizes he only has one. All right, I'll see you in the next video.